guys, it's me, Halloween Dan. And guess what, guys? It snowed. Look at this. It's like a winter wonderland. So because it's all snowy and wintry and it's January and it's cold and, and all that stuff, I thought, today the best kind of video I could probably make was one where I talk about what I want to do in my haunt and what it could potentially be by the time we get to October, which is only like 10 months away. So why not? Yeah, let's talk about that on one of the coldest days of the year. So yes, that is what we're doing today. I am talking about what I may potentially do in my haunt this year. Pretty much ever since last Halloween, like every year to be fair, the minute Halloween ends, my brain starts going into overdrive about what I could potentially do for the following year. This year was no different. Halloween came to an end and my brain just went into hyperdrive around what I might potentially do. The only thing to mention this year is there could potentially be some caveats, in the form of, as sad as it is to say this, as sad as it is to kind of have to talk about this, there is at least a very slim chance, there is a chance that I may not be able to do my haunt this year. Dun, dun, dun. I know. I don't know whether that will happen, I don't know, but at the minute, there's potentially something that's going to happen in my family at that time of year that, or possibly may, that might mean that I can't do my haunt how I would usually do it, or at least not for as long. And also there's another thing about this year, which is a weird one, that Halloween falls on a Tuesday. Now some of you will go, well, what's that got to do with anything? Well, the thing is, the last few years, probably the main years I've done my haunt on this scale, Halloween has always fallen inside of what we here in the UK call, I don't know whether this is a thing elsewhere, half term. Kids are all off school basically for about a week. Halloween for I think the last 4 if not 5 years has fallen inside of that half term, which has meant that all the kids, including my own, have been off school and have been able to come and see it during the day and all that kind of stuff, which has made me want to do it on the scale that I've done it, and also has made me want to do it for the length of time that I've done it, because in the years before that, my haunt really only happened maybe a few days before Halloween, and mainly on Halloween itself. I never really kept it up for any length of time. So because Halloween is on a random Tuesday, and potentially may not be within that half-term week, I'm not so certain how worth of my time it is to put my haunt out for that entire length of time right up to Halloween, and maybe just instead of doing it for a full week, maybe only do it for the weekend before Halloween and on the Tuesday. But I don't know. These are all things that are going on in my brain at the minute, and I haven't made any concrete decisions. But aside from all of those negative points, there are the things that I am hoping and thinking about doing if I manage to do my haunt at any time. If I manage to do it on the big scale for the whole week that I do enjoy doing it for, there are things I am contemplating. And some of these things are a bit out there, and some of these things probably I have no way of actually physically doing. They're just ideas. But I like to sort of spitball these things out with you guys and see what you guys think of these things, see if any of them kind of tickle your fancy, and if any of them do, then maybe there's potential there. I don't know. Where this sort of idea comes from is that last Halloween I was really pleased with my haunt. It worked really well, it all looked really good. There are things that I wanted to iron out and get working better, and what I thought to myself initially was that 2023's Halloween would just be the same sort of thing. I'd set it up in a very similar way, but I would iron out some of the kinks. I'd get things working that didn't work. I would maybe invest in some better lighting or more lighting, perhaps involve a projection of some description in 2023, because I do love some of the Atmos stuff. And I thought, I'm, playing around with this idea of better smoke machines and all that kind of stuff. So that would be where my money would go this year, if anywhere. But then on Halloween itself, you may remember if you saw this video, a slight moment of devastation happened where everything had gone to plan, everything was going really well, and the haunt looked great, and we were out trick-or-treating, and it started to rain, and it got heavier and heavier and heavier. And I ran back because all my animatronics, including the ones that are not particularly weather resistant, were out. And so I started to panic a bit. My witch, Winnie the Witch, my Costco stirring witch, she suddenly stopped working, and I thought, that's it, she's bust, she's done. So with no choice but to, I grabbed her and brought her inside, and then in a moment of quietness, I went and got all my other animatronics that were not outdoor worthy and brought them inside too. And I just had them sort of standing about for the next 2 days drying out. Luckily, when I plugged her back in, she did actually work, so it was a bit of a sigh of relief moment for me. But it did sort of make me shake up my ideas and think, I have to protect particularly her better than I do. I can't spend every year panicking about the weather, so I have to figure out, particularly for the witch, I think she's the most vulnerable, some way of protecting her. I've done this before. Back in 2021, I actually did create a little house for her to sit in, which was basically a small greenhouse. But it looked rubbish, it looked terrible, and it took away from the overall look of the haunt. I hated it. So that's why I didn't do it last year. This year, if I'm going to build anything for her, it's gonna have to look good. So it's going to have to be some form of a bigger, more permanent structure. So immediately my brain started to think of how I could do this. And the simplest way I could think of doing it was to literally buy some 2x2 pieces of timber, knock them into the ground, or find some way of rebarring them into the ground, and then putting on a very simple roof, maybe making that roof out of some pieces of plywood, or possibly even that just being a tarpaulin, tightened very tight, and hopefully I'd try and find a black one so that it didn't stand out so much. Either way, it was really just something that looked a bit better to waterproof, and then I could add a few details to it, maybe some little roof improvements. It would just be very simple, but it would be enough to keep the witch waterproof and not detract from the haunt. But my brain, being my brain, then looked at this idea I had and went, do you know what would be kind of cool? Witches' houses are supposed to be creepy, and I always think they look really witchy if they have like a little tower or a turret of some description sort of sticking out the side of them. So I kind of thought, well, maybe I could build a very basic tower, maybe a crooked tower, sort of coming out the side of that, just to sort of make it look less like a shack. But then again, my brain being what it is, took it a step further. And it was at that point that I thought, do you know what would be a really cool tower to build? The tower from Hogwarts in Harry Potter. The tower I'm talking about, I don't actually know its name, but it's like the main tower that you always see in every picture of Hogwarts. And I thought that would be really cool. I love Harry Potter, and I love the stories and the films. I've watched them and read all the books, and I really, really love it. I've even got a Lego Harry Potter set. This was just a sort of standalone, and I thought, and she's a witch. Hogwarts is a school for witchcraft and wizardry. It kind of makes a bit of sense, I suppose. And then I could maybe dress up the little hut she's in a slightly more Hogwartsy kind of way. Maybe see if I could buy some sort of, I don't know, something that just makes it look a little bit more like the Great Hall in Hogwarts. I wasn't sure. Either way, this is quite an elaborate idea. I'm not quite sure I am capable of doing it. A bit like I wasn't sure whether I was capable of building a pirate ship last year or not. But then I started to think about the overall theme of the haunt and started to think, well, if I'm going down this Harry Potter road with Hogwarts, what else have I got in my haunt that looks a bit Harry Potter-y? And then I thought, well, I've got a dragon. Harry fights a dragon in one of the books. And I've got a graveyard. He fights Voldemort in a graveyard in the same book, I think. And there's a really cool tombstone in the movie version of, it's like a Grim Reaper with a tombstone. Looks really cool. Hey, that would be a cool project. I've even got a basic Grim Reaper prop that I made, you might remember, from not last year, the year before. He could be adapted for that. Bit of monster mud. That could come in. I've got a big spider. There's a big spider in Harry Potter. Aragog the spider. big spider. So the more I started to think about it, the more I thought, my horn is already kind of Harry Potter themed. That would be kind of cool. Maybe I could go down that road. The only problem is, as much as I love Harry Potter, I don't necessarily think of it as a purely Halloween-y thing. And I don't know whether it's I think some people, particularly you guys out there, might go, Harry Potter? Oh, for God. I don't know. I get the vibe that it's not for everyone. It isn't for everyone. Not everybody likes Harry Potter. Even my kids, weirdly, are not overly fussed on Harry Potter. It's definitely more me than them. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I might just go back to the more basic witch house with maybe some sort of a tower coming out of it. But then my brain just the other day did another sort of 180 and went, or maybe I could just build the tower and just have the witch sort of stood in the tower. So I wouldn't be building two things then, and she could just stand in a tower. And a tower's kind of an impressive thing. But then if I do it, does a tower just stood on its own look a bit random? I don't know. What tower stands on its own? Then I started thinking about another series of books and movies that I really, really love, which is Lord of the Rings. Yes, I know, I'm a complete geek, but I've always loved Lord of the Rings. I've read the books, watched the movies, love Lord of the Rings. And in Lord of the Rings, there are several prominent towers that play a very prominent role in the story. And if you go down the wizard witch theme, there is one tower that stands out more than any other, and that is the Tower of Isengard. Now, initially, I thought it would be kind of cool to build Sauron's tower in Mordor with the big red glowing eye, but that kind of made no sense at all within the theming of the... Not that any of it does, but that definitely didn't make any sense. So then I thought, well, okay, that though, the Tower of Isengard, I always really liked the look of that tower from the movies, kind of cool. Maybe I could just literally build some form of a mock-up tower. In the picture I'll be showing you, the scale is completely wrong. It would have to be much smaller than that. But something like that, some sort of a tower with that kind of with the top that you can definitely then tell is the tower top of Isengard, probably made out of plywood and then painted black. And yeah, that would be then a really cool standalone tower that the witch could stand in. It would keep her dry, and it would be a really cool thing to look at. I'm still not overly sure theme-wise it goes with this very family-friendly witch stirring a cauldron, and then you've got the Tower of Isengard. Doesn't really overlap particularly well, but I just kind of thought it was a really cool idea. I really quite liked that. So as you can tell, guys, I've got lots of ideas going on in my head. Everything from a very simple witch house to the Standing Tower of Isengard and Hogwarts, and possibly theming my entire horn in a Harry Potter theme, or just literally leaving it as is and doing basically the same thing but with slightly better lighting and maybe a new smoke machine. I don't know. Either way, guys, I've got ideas coming out of my ears, and it's only January, and it would be great if some of you guys could let me know what you think. Am I taking on too much by thinking this way? Is this too much of a job to take on? I don't want to spend too much money on this as well. I don't want to be spending loads of money on this. Or do you think I should just keep my horn as is and maybe just construct something very simple to keep the witch dry? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Keep it spooky. Bye.